West40 Intermediate Service Center is located in Hillside, Illinois, and serves nearly 90,000 students in 38 school districts and 3 special education co-ops in the near western suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. We provide a wide range of services, including school improvement planning assistance, networking, coaching, personalized training, and online and in-person group training and classes. We also provide health, life safety, and compliance inspections, as well as background checks, a professional testing center and licensure service to educators and the districts we support. The largest part of our organization is focused on directly serving 1,600 students in our regional safe schools and in our alternative learning opportunities programs. In all we do, we are committed to our mission to meet you where you are, to be what you need, to walk further with you, and to stand strong with you. In this session, we are excited to share with you our continuum of services to students which are focused on providing the stability young people need to be able to develop skills which allow them to ultimately become college, career, and life ready. We start the journey through our continuum of services with our director of our Safe Schools, Karen Tiemann.
Why do we create a continuum of care for vulnerable young people? Well, young people don't become vulnerable overnight. Young people that are put in the care of at-risk programs such as the regional safe schools or the alternative learning options programs, they come to that after a series of experiences, like a pattern. A pattern has developed so that schools can see that whatever is happening in that child's environment is not leading to their success. Something inside has made it so challenging, so hard, has placed so many obstacles that we look at that young person and say, we don't know that they'll be successful. And at that point, things have to change. We need to look at those needs not as a result of a child making a decision to do X, but as a child with a need that's trying to be met. And that will look like a multiple of different things. And inside of our school systems, we often react to that in a punitive way. So we'll suspend that child, or we'll expel that child, or we'll give that child a multitude of detentions. That child's need will not be met by punitive measures. That child's need must be met by constructive, intentional skill set development. And those skills can't be developed unless that child is in a calm, nurturing environment. So children that are in these highly vulnerable, traumatic spaces have to have long periods of time in order to feel safe enough to first acknowledge what those patterns are that could be coming obstacles for them, then understand what those patterns are, and then learn the skills they need to correct, self-correct. Not something we would give them, but something they were able to give themselves, something they're able to teach themselves so that they can then take on the challenges of their particular system and meet their particular needs.
Leading our organization and living our mission every day is our Executive Director, Dr. Mark Kleisner. Here is how AESA Executive Director Joan Wade introduced Mark at last year's annual conference.
Earlier this fall, I visited West40, where Executive Director Mark Kleisner talked to me about their endeavor to establish state-of-the-art programming for at-risk students. They believe in one future at a time, and they absolutely love, and I'm not stretching that, they absolutely love all the students that they get to work with. You can feel the emotion and the love that they have for their students when you talk to the West40 staff. Mark will tell you that they are now building relationships with over 1,500 students in their programs to help them focus on and achieve their hopes and dreams. Mark says that each and every student is a future success, and many are future leaders.
Welcome. I am Mark Kleisner. I'm the Executive Director of the West40 ISC number 2 in suburban Cook County, just outside of Chicago. I also have the opportunity and the privilege of serving as the president of the Illinois Association of Regional Superintendents of Schools. That organization oversees all of the ESAs across Illinois, and I have the opportunity then to interact with our districts and our offices across the entire state of Illinois. So we're thrilled at the opportunity to be able to share with you. We've been working very hard on developing some state-of-the-art kind of programs designed to help our students succeed. I love that Joan Wade was able to intro our session. She had a chance to come and visit and see how we live our mission. And Karen Tiemann talks about the need to address the individual needs of our students. And you heard from both of them that we take one student at a time. That process has led us to working with over 1,500 students across our region. All of these students, to some extent, have been defined as students at risk. I'd like to say that we don't typically use that phrase anymore. We'd like to think of our students as students of promise. But our mission statement that you saw at the beginning of our presentation talks about how we will meet you where you are, we will be what you need us to be, we will walk further with you, and we will stand strong with you. We believe that wholeheartedly, one student at a time, helping them find what they need to help them be successful, whatever that means, as they're addressing their future and looking forward. So we take our mission statement and we apply it to the continuum of services for our students. And what we'd like to do today is describe how that continuum looks. We will talk about how, for some students, it may be truancy services that are relatively minor in terms of the amount of contact hours. And from truancy, we also work with pregnant teens and support them in their journey. And then from there, we have alternative learning opportunity programs. We'll describe in more detail how these programs work with advocates who work directly with students in their home schools. Then we have a high needs alternative program that is actually a pull-out program where students can get more intensive help. The most significant amount of support that we provide students is done through a program that we call a regional safe school program. So we'll be discussing that continuum. And as you know, different students have different needs. And our design is to help them find their place on that continuum, to walk beside them, to be what they need us to be, and to help them take the next steps to be life, college, career ready as they move out of their educational process. So that's our plan for the next few minutes. We would like to start by going back to the director of our Safe School program, Karen Tiemann, and have her talk about why we need to provide something different than what is typically provided in most public schools in Illinois.
That's not a one size fits all. That has to be this continuum of protective, safe relationships and spaces for kids to be able to know and believe will be there as they confront these experiences, as they learn to create these new opportunities of skills. And then once they have those skills, put them into application. So in West40, we have what we would call the more intensive services. Sometimes we call that the deep end. And that just means that a child is in services, more intensive services, for a longer period of the day. And as they acquire those skills and they have that safety and they begin to create opportunities for themselves, we try to move those kids along a continuum of care with the same education, adults with the same understanding of traumatized kids, of vulnerable kids, and what those kids need, so that we can stay with those kids, walk them across that continuum, watch them apply their new skill sets, and they can then travel into our more traditional systems of education with success.
So I'm glad that you had a chance to hear from Karen Tiemann, and you can hear the passion about how we address the individual needs of students and look at them through a different lens. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Mike Popp. Mike, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Popp. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at West40 ISC. And as Karen talks about being what each student needs, West40 has developed the continuum based on the needs of our districts in general. When we work with the district to create an alternative learning opportunity program, which is kind of right in the middle of our continuum of services, we look at their needs. And so if you were to come and see what we have, we've got programs that are very much push-in programs. Students are taking all their regular classes and they're assigned an advocate who works with them, who works with their family, who works with the school. Other programs are somewhat pull out, and those programs are maybe in a separate setting on the school campus. Most recently, we've added to our continuum again, based on district needs, based on student needs. We've created a high needs ALOP. And that ALOP is a pull-out program that is housed at our SAFE school. But at the SAFE school, where students have been excluded from their home school due to behavior, the high needs ALOP is serving that student who hasn't had any kind of board action to cause them to be removed. And so the beauty of what happens at West40, and when we overlay it on the continuum, is that we're so focused on that mission of being what you need, that student individually or that school district in developing a new alternative program with them.
And Mike, I really like the way you captured that. A word like truancy is very common to people all over the country, and they have a notion of what truancy looks like. And historically, truancy has been seen as a compliance type of intervention. What do students need to do to qualify based on a number of absences? And we have truancy programs where we reach out to students in the community. Oftentimes, districts have hundreds of students on their truancy list. And we have outreach counselors that actually go out and attempt to encourage students and families so the students can come into the schools. Once they are in the schools, in many cases, there aren't supports in place within the school, which is part of the reason why we added the ALOP programs that Mike just described. We also found that one of the key reasons that students were not able to come to school was due to complications due to teen pregnancies. So we took one of our truancy outreach counselors and we used that position to specifically address the needs of our pregnant youth as we try to help them continue to move forward in their goals and eventually graduate. So as you can imagine, this continuum starts with some sort of truancy services and works into the programs that Mike just described around the ALOP programs and the deep end ALOP. And then we have a safe school program. And probably the best way to describe that to you would be the regional safe school program looks very much like a therapeutic day school. We have a very low staff to student ratio. We have interventionists, we have social work, we have group interactions, group therapy kinds of settings. Every student has an individual success plan with goals that they're working toward. And so somewhere on that continuum, every student has a place and we can meet them where they are and we can be what they need us to be, and we can walk alongside them and help them be successful and stand strong with them.
we're talking about each part of this continuum, and we keep jumping from one extreme to the next. And then we've got this great big ALOP in the middle, Alternative Learning Opportunities Program. In that program this year, we're expecting to serve about 1,600 students. And the vast majority of those students are going to be served in their home districts. And so I think to better understand what it is they do and what they're about in the ALOP, let's hear from Laura and Karina from one of our Alternative Learning Opportunities programs.
One of our students, she's still a tapestry student. She was referred to tapestry because the brother was in tapestry. The brother was in tapestry for 3 years. They came from Mexico at different times. They have a very rough upbringing in Mexico. And of course, trauma was evident by actions, by behavior, by learning cognitively. They were very behind their grade level. So we supported the brother as much as we could. Unfortunately, from at home, things were happening that forced him to withdraw from school. As many attempts we did, not only tapestry, but tapestry in the school, because tapestry works as a community with the school community and parents. Then we started working with the sister, and you could see that the sister had the same concerns, attendance, but you can see that the dynamics at home continue affecting her grades and her attendance. We have done home visits, and whenever she communicates, the person that she reaches out is to the advocate. Tapestry connects the students to teachers, the students to administration. We make those connections. This is one of many cases. I just wanted to mention this because she's still struggling, but she's getting those skills for her future after high school, because yes, the goal is for her to graduate, but it doesn't stop there. The goal of tapestry is for them to have those life skills for if they decide to go to a 4-year university, or if they have decide to go to a trade school, or for whatever they do, they have those skills and they have mastered those skills.
So last year was really tough with the COVID, everything that's going on, because that was going to be our babies, our first babies ever, graduating. Most of my stories are with them because I feel like I got to see them from sophomore year. It's my first time seeing somebody from sophomore year all the way to senior year graduating. And one girl in particular, she started off very strong with us. She was loving, the attention and everything, but then we started getting really busy. I feel like I can share her story. I just won't say her name. She actually was part of a robbery in her home, and her uncle was killed in front of her. So that when that happened, I just could not get her to come back to school. I could not get her to do any work. I would call her mom and she's like, I'm just gonna go sign her out. She's gonna drop out. She doesn't want to go to school. I can't get her out of her room. Beautiful thing about our program is it work, like Laura said, we connect students. So I was able to get the counselor, the deans, the Loyola social workers, everybody that we could in a room. And we're just like, we need to do something about this. And I mean, really long story short, she was able to graduate in May, which was a huge accomplishment. And I think that I probably think about her forever and talk about her story forever, because going through something like that, I can't even imagine. And another thing that we always like to tell the students, remind them, is a lot of you guys are going through things that I don't even more adulty things than even some adults go through. I'm like, so we just try to just understand and just be there for them.
I'm just sure you could tell by listening to these two advocates the passion that they have. They both work in similar programs in different school districts, but their experiences are very similar in terms of how they address the needs of our students. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to share some time with Candace. Candace is one of our site coordinators who oversees a program in one of our high school districts. So let's listen to Candace's story.
A lot of the students who will probably be at the safe school also come back into the district as well. So we received 2 students from the West 40 Safe School that came over. One of the students actually was not registered because the family was having some difficulties. And I was able to reach out to the dean and see if the student was on a potential list of watch list students to come over. She was able to find his name. Myself, the dean, and one of the officers here actually completed a social distance home visit, and we were able to meet the dad and meet the student and give him all his access information to log into Microsoft Teams, because that's the platform that Morton is using to communicate for remote learning, to communicate with the students and teach. So it was just really good to be able to just collaborate, and just for that family to know that, you know, although they was at the West 40 Safe School, they still have a family here as well too. So it was good to be able to build the connection. And the dad was so much more comfortable. He was so much more open with allowing his student to work with us, because he had knew the pre-work and how great that, you know, his son turned out at the West 40 Safe School. So he finally got registered. He came, and he's set up on Teams now, and we have paired him with a student advocate.
One thing that I hope you're hearing from these staff members at our different ALOP programs is that, again, they're embracing part of our mission, not just being what you need, but walking further with you. When we talk about staff members trying to help students, as Mark said earlier, become college and career ready, we always add the life ready piece. We're determining what each of these students needs and then doing it for them. And it's very different from when you're in a general ed setting and we talk about going that extra mile for kids. Our staff will stop at nothing to get that family, get that student what they need to make sure they can be successful. Oftentimes we're with that family for a long time, and you just heard about a student moving from one part of our programming to another. So moving along that continuum and having that support during that transition. And you're about to hear from Karen Tiemann again, who's going to introduce a staff member who also walked that continuum and had us standing with him as he moved through our programming and ultimately came back to serve kids on the continuum as a staff member. So here's Karen Tiemann again.
In regards to Juan Silva, he embodies all the reasons that we want to invest in our kids like this. So when he was in 7th grade, he was in a regional safe school. He went on, he did well. When he was in high school, he was in an alternative learning option program. He went on, he did well. He graduated from college, and with that degree, he turned right back around and said, I want to serve more kids like me. I want to serve kids who look like me, who had my struggles. And here he is with his social work degree, sitting across the table, doing anything he can for kids.
Where I'm positioned at is I'm fortunate enough to work with students that are, starting out, freshman or sophomore year, and they're really starting their journey, their high school journey with me. So I go ahead and have a student. I would say, me thinking back at students that I currently have right now, and just thinking back of a student that I had last year, she really wasn't sure of how high school is going to go, a little bit of anxiety, not too sure about, different ways to have success throughout high school. So what that really reminds me when it comes to the continual services as it applies to my role in high school is I'm going to be with this student from the point that I see her up until, to senior year, until she graduates. And we discussed last year just, some anxieties that came with it. Her family, she's a first generation student. She really wasn't too sure of how to ask for help. I play a role as a liaison, right? So I'm able to connect resources to her family. I'm a Spanish speaking advocate. I'm able to translate different, messaging that they're receiving from the school. Maybe the school may not know that they're Spanish speaking. So I'm being what she needs me to be, and I'm going to stand by her, which is part of our mission.
I'm so glad that you had a chance to hear directly from Juan and hear his story. I'd like to remind you that students are only in our programs because someone has identified them as being at risk of not completing their education on time, that somebody sees them as a potential dropout. And twice, Juan was in that situation, and our West 40 advocates walked beside him and helped him reach his goals and succeed in completing his education. And in fact, now he's working on his master's degree in social work and counseling. We would love for you to have the opportunity to hear from Dion. Dion was a student of ours nearly a decade ago who has gone on to be very successful, has his own business, comes back regularly to visit our students and to help them dream about what their future could be and challenge them to stick to their goals. And we have a podcast of Dion. If you'd like to hear other podcasts, please feel free to come to our website. But here's a little bit about Dion's story.
Welcome to 40 Stories, the podcast that welcomes you into the minds and hearts of the people whose lives have been affected by West 40.
How did the teachers or the staff react differently to your energetic ways once you got to the West 40 middle school?
Well, they didn't treat them as if it was like uncommon or like not natural for a kid to act like a kid. You know, they embraced it, but they taught me how to utilize it at the right times. You know what I mean? More so of right place, right time. Just do it when it's appropriate and just be respectful.
What is it that makes you want to come back and contribute in your own way to what West 40 is doing? Even though you graduated too long ago, you're still coming back and you're still making the contributions. What is it about West 40 that makes you still want to be a part of it?
This is a different environment than any environment I've ever been involved with, as far as school, people. It's just being genuine. The people are genuine here. You know what I mean? And that's just my honest look at it. I think everybody is genuine and people are doing things from the heart. And when you have that, I mean, you don't want to take it for granted. So every time I can, every opportunity I get, I come back. I don't care if it's a last minute call or whatever. If I can plan it, I'll plan it. But you don't take those people for granted because you've been in different environments like a school of thousands of kids and stuff like that. You don't get the contact you get there as if you would here. You know what I mean?
A little bit ago, I talked about our Continuum and I talked about our Truancy outreach work. And I mentioned we discovered that there was a niche of students that we weren't helping as much as we'd like to help. We were doing successful truancy work, but we realized that one of the key reasons was that we had a number of students who at any given time were not on track to graduate simply because they were dealing with the challenges of the situation around teenage pregnancy. So we shifted a little bit in our model and incorporated Nancy, and Nancy is our teen pregnancy counselor. And let's hear a little bit about her story and her intervention to help students be successful.
I work with any pregnant or parenting teen at Proviso East or West, whether it be the male or the female, from the beginning of being identified being pregnant to however long they want to be on my caseload. I've had some students who, the first year I did this, they were some of my first very pregnant students, and now they have 3-year-olds. Then we sometimes just, throughout the duration of their pregnancy, we talk about things that they might need. Let's make sure we have a crib. Do we have bottles? Have you picked out a pediatrician? Clothing. I have a small budget in the Truancy grant that allows for us to provide formula diapers for students. And when they transition back into the school building, I make sure that they're connected with the right people in the building who know that they just had a baby, they're coming back, and they're going to need extra help. I've had students who just want to sit in the study hall during their lunch to catch up on what they missed. I now have students who come back and feel, totally different than they did before they had the baby, and they just don't connect with their peers. Once the student becomes pregnant and becomes a mother or father, not only does their life role change, but school also starts to become less of a priority for the student. So I try to talk with them about how important it is to graduate from high school and how making sure that we're providing the best life that we can. When we have a high school diploma, we can get a higher earning job, that type of thing.
So Mike, as we've listened to our folks talk about our continuum of services for students, it occurs to me that a piece that's become critical to our success is our partnerships with other people, other organizations, other people committed to a similar mission to ours. And I know oftentimes we hear the phrase, it takes a village, but really we've been living that out in terms of being what we need to be and realizing that other people can bring expertise to the table too. I know you feel strongly about some of the partnerships that we have that have helped strengthen our programs.
And Mark, you're absolutely right. Our continuum is focused on being what kids need, being what districts need. And we realized early on that we're going to need more than just what we have. And that's why there's such a huge outreach to create partnerships here. Our student advocates, by definition alone, they're building a relationship with the student. They're building a relationship with all the people at the school that interact with that student. They're becoming a part of that student's family. And when they're finding out what that student and family really need, then they're going out into the community to find out what services are there that can complement what we do. And so we do that on a one-to-one basis, but at the same time, we've got these partnerships that serve the whole organization. One such partnership is Prevent School Violence Illinois, PSVI. They've taken us in a really introspective direction. So they help us look at service, they help us look at programming, they help us look individually at what we're doing in order to be on this continuous improvement cycle, so that we can better serve kids by us learning how to understand those kids better. But there's so many other organizations with which we work. And I know, one that you and I work with quite a bit, and you with all the statewide committees you're on, the Illinois State Board of Education. When I came to this role 4 years ago, I thought that ISB and the ROEs and the ISCs were all one big happy family, and found out they're all really separate entities. But we've built over the years that you've been executive director, built a relationship with them, so that West 40's become first in mind oftentimes when they're looking to make something happen in the state that's better for kids. And oftentimes we wind up picking up the phone and talking with someone there to figure out how to navigate an issue or how to get something done that we know is going to serve kids here and across the state. But we also look locally. We also partner with chambers of commerce throughout our area, and there's quite a few of them. We also work with other mental health organizations, again, going to people who can help us meet the needs of our kids. We work with people who work on drug and other addiction counseling, services that we don't have right here on our own staff. And so we partner with other people to bring that to our kids.
Mike, I totally agree. I think that our partnerships make us stronger together, and we're always looking for ways to try and address the complicated needs of our students and their families. Let's hear from Dr. Monique Holloway, who's one of our area directors, about other partnerships and how she sees those right at the school and district level.
A lot of our students come with challenges that are out of our control, but if there are resources that we connect the family with, we find ways to connect them to ensure that they get the support that they need. We look at the student, but we look at the student as a whole, meaning that the family dynamic, any stakeholders that's involved. So it's a whole community approach. It's from the West 40 staff, from the school staff, from the family, from resources in the community, linking them to things that they may not have known.
So Dr. Holloway mentioned partnerships, and we named some of our partnerships before. We want to take a moment for you to meet some of our partners. One of our outstanding partnerships is with a Greater Good Foundation. And our Director of Communications, Angela Mooney, had an opportunity to interview some of the guys from the foundation, and here they are.
West40 provided us, or helped provide us, with 3 of our 4 first boys who came into our program. Not only did they help provide them, they introduced us to their families, they advocated for us, and they provided resources to make sure that we felt some level of support in this new, very ambitious, audacious endeavor that we had launched upon. So West40 continues to be the example of, hey, we're not just saying we have your back, we're showing you we have your back. And they show that from the high school building, or actually the middle school building, if you include the safe school, from the building all the way home. And COVID was the perfect time for them to show their students, to show us and the communities that they serve, like, hey, the world may be at a panic, but we still got you. So we love everything that West40 says they're about and shows that they're about. And we hope that you guys can feel and have an opportunity to experience what we've experienced also.
And that's the beautiful thing about restorative practices that we've learned, is that it's not just a tool to solve conflicts, but it's a tool to build community, build perspective, build understanding, build empathy, share those stories that we can get to know more about each other, especially a program like West40, when it's such a diverse program, kids from all different communities and kids from all different backgrounds. But we've been able to share so many similarities, commonalities, find that those things that bring us together. So a lot of people might say it that our school is a family, but the restorative program at the Safe School definitely has the most family feel that I've ever been a part of. And we work with a lot of schools, a lot of programs. I'm just excited to work with the Safe School forever, moving forward and just building on that restorative nature.
Keep up the work, West40. You guys are blazing the trail that we're following. So we'll see you at the top.
You know, Mark, we've talked quite a bit about the different elements of our continuum and the different programs we run, but we know that it's one thing to run a program and it's another thing to measure the success of the program. And we're really proud of one of our directors, one of our area directors in the ALOP, Renee Macris. Renee went and developed a student information system so that we could track progress of our students in our ALOPs. She also then went ahead and modified that student information system to fit the data needs of our safe school. And so we want to take a few minutes to show that business end of working with these programs. And so here's Renee Macris.
It was taking a lot of hours and a lot of manpower away from students in order for us to give the information and the work that we were doing to the state. So at some point, we started using the Google platform. We created a system which tracks typical demographics, attendance, behavior, grades. But the benefit for us that we make it customizable every year is that we're also tracking student success plans, the goals that we make with our students, if they're achieving those goals, interactions with advocates and students and families and staff, and all of that information at the end of the year gives us a good snapshot of where we've been, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us. And it gives us real intention in the work that we're doing so that we keep making progress for students. We keep improving our processes. You know, we may not always like what we see at the end, but the numbers are the numbers, and it helps guide us into next year and the things that we're going to improve on in order to elevate our programs to the next level. So each year we're continuously improving our processes thanks to the data that we see and we collect throughout the year.
It's great to hear Renee describe her system, and I love that it grew out of the needs that we had to guide our decisions. And in this day and age, when everybody's looking to make data-driven decisions, and we're looking at school boards and our other stakeholders, it's great to have a data system that serves as a communication tool. And we've seen that used in so many different ways. We're really proud of that work, and we found it very useful.
Data is that piece that drives the grants, and data is the piece that allows us to fund our system. Success with kids brings the ability to have more money to do that. But before all of that, and I know we're not being sequential here, but before you even get to the data, how do you create the programs? And so we started this presentation hearing from Karen Tiemann, our director at our Safe School. And so we want to close with Karen talking about the real base of everything that we do at West 40.
This whole construct is not anything other than responding to the why and the who. Who are these kids? What is their need? And when you understand that, there is no other way to program other than creating a continuum of services that always respect the relationship and the safety and the consistency that these kids will need to heal, to grow, and to apply the skills that they now need to function in life. There's no way to do it without it. To our kids, it's a home and it's family and it's relationships and love. To our staff, it answers a need for a call of service and love and care. For our families, it's safety, it's unconditional. And for schools, it's a true partner. And I would say for all of them, we do try to meet people where they're at and walk alongside and learn as we go. So that's West 40.
We're so glad that you were able to join us for this presentation today. We feel like we've just scratched the surface. If you have any questions, feel free to jot them in the chat, and we'll be able to answer a few of those with the time that we have allotted. Otherwise, if you'd like to reach us after the fact, feel free to contact us through our website. You'll be able to find email and phone numbers there. We'd love to talk to you more about the adventures, the successes, and the challenges that we've been through in trying to address the needs and help every student be successful. Thank you for being here.